Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. Today we have another team-specific mock draft. This one we're going to be focusing on the Miami Dolphins, new head coach Mike McDaniel, a little bit of a rebuilding, younger team. There's a lot of fun ways. They have a lot of money to spend in free agency. So, the draft has been a big part of their rebuild. Obviously, Tua a couple years ago. Now let's see what they can surround them with, like I said, in free agency and within here in the draft. Pick 29 is where they first come in. Like I said, don't forget we're using the draft network. Sometimes the picks are going to be a little crazy, but for right now, this is what we have to work with. This is who's on the board. You can see their team needs. Wide receiver is true. Running back is also true. I think offensive line is probably a little higher than, or a little lower than it should be. I think it's a pretty big area of need for them, and I think that's probably what they will address in free agency the most. And right away, I'm looking at some of these receivers. Nobody's quite really fitting the need, so I'm going to go Christian Harris here at 38. Linebacker help isn't the biggest need, but he tested out of his mind on the combine, and I think some athletic ability is needed there. I think athletes on defense is obviously something that should be prioritized more often than not, and I know it's not the biggest area of need, but he's probably the best player there, kind of what they're looking for at a position of need, and just think it kind of works out a little bit. Now here, their second round at pick 50. I really like some offensive line. I'm gonna go Bernard Ryman here. Like I said, Mike McDaniel coming over from San Francisco, where they had a really solid offensive line. I do think they'll spend a lot of money on that in free agency, but Ryman, even if he doesn't start right away, he has a high upside. Former tight end in college. He's moved around a lot. The upside is clearly there because obviously when you're tight end, you're more athletic than most typical offensive linemen. And I think that the way the 49ers kind of ran the ball is, something that Miami is going to try to do. Obviously, brought over the offensive coordinator. And I think anytime you can add an athlete like that, it'll kind of help and it'll make things easier for you a little bit. Make the transition a little bit easier. Round 3 here, Dolphins pick is coming up. Again, the Dolphins need a little bit of everything. They don't need anything crazily. They could use some other pass rushers. They should use some pass catchers. They could still use a running back, which is totally something I probably should have considered with the last pick. But for right now, I'm looking for a receiver here. If I'm being honest, but nobody's really. Ooh, Alec Pierce, there he is. I love Alec Pierce. I'm a big Cincinnati guy. They produce a lot of good NFL prospects. Alec Pierce is dominating the combine. 6'4". Running a 4.33, turn on the tape, dude makes contested catch after contested catch. And I think he kind of will give that big body target for Tua, similar to Devontae Parker, who's getting up there in age. He's a good complement to Jalen Waddle, gives you a little bit of everything, and he just fits kind of exactly what I think that they needed at that position. Now here, running back is a little tough one. I'm going to check out who's here on the board. I really like Rachaad White here. I'm a big Rachaad White fan too, by the way. It just happened they're getting a lot of my favorite guys so far. He's one of the few guys in this class that I really think can do it all. And then we know running backs a need for them, and here they are again, right up again. I think Alex Lindstrom, boom, pretty simple again. Good interior offensive lineman, really smart guy. And we can see that from his answers at the combine, which if you missed is all over the TWSN social media account. We had some good interactions, some good questions for him, so please go check that out. But just in general, we know they need some offensive line help. They're going to spin in free agency, but they still need some younger guys. They have a young quarterback, they have a young core, so they need to make sure that they have some young assets on the offensive line. And so far, I give them 2 early on, and I think that's probably going to be it for the most part. Obviously, you could take some shots later in the draft, but for right now, I think I'm going to try to focus on other positions outside of the offensive line. And that would start by, I think I want to add some sort of pass rusher to this group. Maybe it's an interior pass rusher, or it's pretty tough. I'm not in love with this edge group here, if I'm being honest. So let's go take a look inside into the interior. Haskell Garrett's pretty solid. Thomas Booker's pretty solid. Is there a linebacker that's kind of like more of an outside linebacker kind of guy? No, there's really not. So this pick is throwing me for a loop here a little bit. They could kind of use somebody to complement Javon Holland a little bit, and I think that's the direction we're gonna go here and go, oh, this is tough. I like a lot of these. Let's go Reed Blankenship. Reed Blankenship is a pretty solid guy. He was really high on draft boards coming into one of these years, and he got hurt. He's a tackling machine, tackle for loss machine. As a safety, is very impressive. I think he can complement Javon Holland back there a lot. Another guy that's versatile. You can move around a lot. But just in general, I think he provides some versatility with a decently high floor for a pick this late, and that's kind of what I like to focus on here. You know, you're gonna have contributors. He can contribute on special teams. At the very least, he will contribute on special teams, which is something that often gets overlooked, in my opinion. But special teams is a part of the game, and here he is finding his way to Miami in round 6. Now, again, these later picks are always gonna be a little difficult because you're really just taking shots in the dark. If this is how the board falls, I really think it's almost impossible for me to pass on Justin Ross there because the upside is simply there. There's not too many people with his upside in the draft. He was, it sucks when stuff like this happens, but he was going on to have a really good career at Clemson. I believe it was a pretty bad neck injury that had to slow him down. So obviously, you hope that doesn't slow him down in the NFL. Hopefully, he's healthy. He says he's healthy, and hopefully, he can continue that sign of health throughout his NFL career. Now, again, I think tight end was kind of a sort of a potential need for them, but they they franchise tagged Mike Gesicki, so that's taken care of for the year at least. It's at least taken care of for the year. I think they could definitely look for the future guy, but they drafted one last year. I think they could look for a corner here a little bit, and I really like Jalen Armour-Davis down here for Alabama, another guy that ran really fast. Everybody knows the two corners they have, but the depth behind it isn't that good. It's not the best, it's not the worst, it could be improved, but Armour-Davis is just an athlete. I think when you can add a late round flyer and a guy that has a super good athletic profile and a guy that can, potentially sneak up into the depth chart, contribute on special teams, like I said, nobody fits that bill better here than Jalen Armour-Davis. And that's gonna wrap up the picks here from Miami, waiting for the draft to conclude, so you can see the big overhead of all of our picks. And here it is. Just to recap a little bit, they kind of just went best player available sorta at every pick. I don't think there's any reaches. The first round pick threw me for a little bit of a loop. I really love Pierce and Rachaad White in rounds 3 and 4. But this Miami team, like I said, new head coach. You never know what direction they're really going to go. But just based off of how Mike McDaniel is known for, where he came from, how he did things in the past, the offense and the schemes they have implemented now, I think this is a pretty solid mock draft for a 7-round mock for the Miami Dolphins. And thank you for tuning in to this Miami Dolphins team-specific 7-round mock draft. And I hope to see you again on the TWSN YouTube channel here soon.